Hey everybody, it's Joe Trippi and welcome back to That Trippi Show with Alex Ashlow. This week, we're officially past Labor Day, when campaigns traditionally kick it into high gear. But of course, if you're a regular listener, you know we've all been in high gear for a while. Anyway, Alex, where should we get started?
Joe, at this time of year, we always see a surge of new listeners. And welcome back, by the way, if you haven't been listening for a while. And thank all of you for sticking with us if you've stuck with us through the past 8-10 months of what I would charitably describe as a slog, but hopefully the light's at the end of the tunnel. Joe, with just like 9 weeks left, a few days less when people listen to this, I thought it'd be good for you to give us the story so far. A lot of you who might just be joining us might not know that you've been saying like forever that the structure of the race has a very specific number, and in terms of what Kamala's ceiling is, what Trump's ceiling is. And it really seems like we're moving in that direction. What are you seeing? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I have been saying forever that the structure of the race is 46-53. 46 Trump. There's 53% that do not absolutely decided they don't want Trump. And we've basically seen Trump stuck at 46 or thereabouts. And whether it was Biden or Harris or who, that number on the other side fluctuated basically depending on, well, Biden's age and all that stuff, and third parties and all these kinds of things that some group in that 53% did not want Trump could either stay home, vote third party, or grudgingly during the Biden candidacy, grudgingly move to him. But it's clear to me and continues to be clear to me that this has been structurally from the time Trump came down the escalator, he's been stuck at 46. He got 46 in 2016, 46.7 in 2020, and he's now in the ABC Washington Post Ipsos poll. They have it. Oh, look at what it says. Harris 52, Trump 46. Pretty damn close to that 53-46 structure that I've been talking about I've been talking about this from when Biden was the candidate, about why, as Democrats came home, even after the debate, he was likely to, it would be a close eked out win like 2020. But the structure of the race benefits the Democratic nominee. And in this case, it really benefits Harris. She's, again, in that ABC Ipsos poll, 52-46. She's up 13 with women. Trump's up 5 with men, which is pretty generally the gender gap, that we've seen in past cycles. Her favorability, Harris has got 46 favorable, 33 unfavorable. Qualified for the office, 53% think Harris is qualified for the office.
Only 47 think Trump.
Yeah. So it's, again, you start to see when you look under the hood and you start to see the numbers that match this 53-46, 53-47 kind of structure of the race. And frankly, even in some of the polls that don't show that, like a different poll came out recently, had Harris at 48 and Trump at 43. So 5-point advantage there for her. But again, he's stuck in that 40, in what I would say the 46 range. And really what's happening now, a lot of these people different. So is that with Biden, a lot of that 53% were thinking of staying home, or enough of them that it made it scary, or voting third party, or even in the 46-ish kind of percent that Biden was garnering, it was mostly people voting against Trump, not for him. And that's another key difference, because the energy that Harris has, the number of people who are voting for her to support her, not to their first reaction is that they're voting against Trump, but that they're voting for her. So the energy level on the Democratic side, on the pro-democracy side, is going very strong now as well. And by the way, it's diminishing on Trump's side. There's less energy over there. Less of them are saying that they're likely to vote, locked in on their support. So I even think, and we've talked about this, Simon Rosenberg has been on the mountaintop talking about the need to get to 55 to really crush the other side and make sure that this is the last kind of MAGA assault on democracy. I don't think that's it's not just the 55. I think it's that there's the one thing I can tell you is we'll win this time if we win. But if we do, they're not going away. We're just going to have to keep working hard, preserving this democracy and protecting it. It's going to be ongoing for a decade or so, I think. But I do think that Simon's been right about the structure of the race, and I don't know, there is a chance here that we're starting to see signs. Alex and I were talking to a pollster yesterday who was looking at focus groups, and he was talking about how none of the Trump attacks seem to stick to Kamala Harris the way they were sticking or presenting hurdles for Joe Biden. It was like almost that Biden's age, his slowness of his walk and things, it was almost something that made negative things stick to him. So in other words, if you were upset about the economy, you blamed it was all because he was too old. He wasn't up to the job. And in other words, everything that in a strange way, everything that voters conjured up that they were upset about, his physical demeanor made that stick to him more in a way that it just doesn't with Kamala Harris. So it's going to be interesting, but I think Democrats are unified. And then on the Trump side, they thought they were sitting pretty after that debate, and then they went and picked J.D. Vance and doubled down on it.
For those of our listeners that may not have been with us at that point, looking back, why did they pick J.D. Vance? Because it looks really bad right now.
No, they picked J.D. Vance because, one, they thought they had this thing locked. They were on their way to 370 electoral votes or whatever the hell they were smoking. And they were going down the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, World Wrestling Federation, Hulk Hogan, Tech Bro, white man, old white guy, testosterone, whatever. They were doubling down all on that and didn't think they had to expand beyond anything else because they had this thing wrapped. It was all strength versus weak versus old and weak. And the problem with all that is now Trump has become the old weak guy. And so they literally put themselves in this corner and they can't get out. It's really is going to go down as one of the big historically just crazy, although the whole thing's been crazy since he came down the escalator, but this last few the months leading to their convention, weeks leading to their convention, of the hubris and confidence and now clearly overconfidence that they were exuding in the pick of J.D. Vance itself just exemplifies it. No, they've got some real problems there because now, and I think we're going to get to this, Tom Etzel has a piece out today, the show notes. Yeah, because there's some really, I think, insightful stuff there.
Joe, and then on the flip side, Kamala Harris coming off that DNC and the Tim Walz pick and everything that kind of seemed like the opposite of what Trump was doing in a lot of ways. They showed a bunch of unity. I can't say MAGA is not united right now. Tim Walz is essentially the anti-J.D. Vance. I think if you put them in the same room, the world may explode. So mark that debate as on your calendars. But she won back, like you said, a lot of what Joe Biden has lost. And the polling averages, which are really not the best way to look at this unless you're looking at kind of points in time because of just how many junk polls are out there. But if you look at on July 21st, which is the day Joe Biden dropped out, Trump led by 4.3 points, I think. He was ahead in every battleground state, all 7 of them. By August 5th, Trump's lead was basically a statistical tie. On the 24th of August, Kamala was up 2.6. And by September 3rd, the week we're recording this, she's up by 3.3, which is starting to get towards that 53-46 structure you're talking about.
That whole structure was there in all those numbers. Look at on August 5th, Trump led 46.4 to 46.2 for Harris. On August 24th, Trump had 45.8. Oh, 46. Remember that. Oh, but Harris had been moving to 48.4. And then by September 3rd, Trump 45.5. Remember that 46 number again. And Harris is close to 49%. So my point was, even back on July 21st, the day Biden dropped out, where you say Trump led in the averages by 4.3 points and was ahead in all 7 battleground states, he was still essentially at 46. The difference in all this is not Trump moving. He's been stuck at 46. And actually, we're now seeing if you go August 5th, 46.4, August 24th, 45.8, September 3rd, 45.5. There's even possibility here. Although I agree with you, you can't read too much into the averages because there's a bunch of junk in there. But most of the junk benefits Trump. The junk polls that the Republican pollsters dump in there to create the big red wave and all the other crap they do. But my point still is that he's always been at 46. And all that movement that you're talking about is the movement that I was talking about towards the 53 that have decided that they're not voting for him. The only question, and they're available to Harris. They were available to Biden. They were far less available to Biden because of age, the way the Trump campaign was messaging worked against him in a way that they just still, to this day, have not figured out how to combat the movement and energy around Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. No, I would maintain that when you look at those averages and you look at the movement in them over time, one thing did not move. Or if it did, it dipped slightly, and that was Donald Trump. And again, go back 2016, 46, 2020, 46.7. And the reason he won in 2016 and lost in 2020, that same 53 points were available to Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden those years. But people stayed home. Third parties were strong in 2016. And so that 53% broke up and he won. And so in 2020, third parties were weaker. A lot of those voters didn't stay home. They voted for Joe Biden. He appealed to them, and he got 51% of the vote. That same 53, 2%, so he got 51. Where'd those other 2 points go? They stayed home or they voted third party. That's what happened. In 2024, we're not headed to anything but a 53-46 kind of race. Trump being the one that's stuck permanently at 46. And the real question is, do people stay home? Does Kamala Harris, do we get our vote out? Do third parties, the crap that the Trump people were doing to prop up third parties and get Cornel West on as many ballots as possible because they need stronger third parties? That's not happening. We still have to be vigilant, but that's not happening. And Kamala Harris doesn't have as much of a problem with people. She doesn't have the too old problem. She's the change, and Trump's too old. And he's the one that's old news, and his story it's boring now, and there just isn't that kind of energy there. So again, I would argue that all this just keeps confirming what we've been saying on this podcast now for the better part, literally, where people do write in, stop repeating yourself. But hey, spoiler alert, it's what we think, it's what we've been saying. And all the evidence is that it is happening exactly the way we saw these numbers, the meaning of them months ago.
So I should caveat this. We still have a lot of work to do. And I know you mentioned Tom Etzel's piece earlier, and his point was, we'll link it in the show notes, it's called How the Presidential Election Got So Close. And his point, and I'll let you get into this, but one of his main points are, this comes down to 7 states, and shifts of just 1% to 3% in those 7 states will determine whether Trump or Harris becomes the 47th president. Obviously, that's what happened in 2020. Obviously, it's what's going to happen again, but that's really what it comes down to, and it will still be really close.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I'm saying, look, the Republicans haven't won. They won the popular vote once. Last 6 or 7, presidential campaigns. They won it once. It was when George W. Bush ran for re-election in 2004. It wasn't the first time. Gore lost that election or whatever, the Supreme Court, whatever the hell that was. But he won the popular vote. The Supreme Court gave Bush Florida. But every single one they've lost they're going to lose it again. I think it's going to be, like I said, Biden got 51% in 2020 when he defeated Trump. I think Kamala Harris is going to do beyond that. So it'll be a bigger popular vote win. We do know that we've seen that now because yeah, we've won the popular vote all those times, but they've won the presidency more than a couple times now with the Electoral College, because that's how it gets decided. There are going to be 6, 7, 8 states maybe that will decide this, depending on whether North Carolina's in there or not, and I think it is. And so what Tom Etzel points out is actually clear. He points out that when voters were asked in July who would make our economy work better, they chose Trump over Biden by 11 points. In August, they chose Trump over Harris by 1 percentage point. But by the way, this is the economy, the big number one concern that Biden was having. And this gets to the whole point that we were talking with our pollster friend about, how it was his view of this. It would be that Biden's age and the slow movement in his speaking pattern would make people, when they thought about the economy and who would make it work better, they just thought he didn't have it. He's too old. He's not all there. Whatever the Trump strength over weakness thing was working. Without those cues that Harris doesn't have. Now we're looking at Trump over Harris. He has a 1 point advantage on who would make the economy work better.
It was 11, yeah.
Yeah, when it was 11. But now it's a 1 point advantage, not 11. When asked whether the candidate was competent and effective, which candidate was competent and effective in July, Trump led Biden by 10. In August, Harris leads Trump by 4. What I read the Etzel piece as, yeah, look, it's a close race, but when you actually start looking, and it's going to be decided in these 5 or 6, 7, 8, 7 states, but when you look under the hood of the questions, there's a big shift happening. And another one was on the question of which candidate has the energy and stamina needed to serve. In July, Trump led Biden by 27 points. 27 points. In August, Harris leads Trump by 11.
That's the whole thing.
38-point swing. So if you look at what I think is the structure of the race, that 46-53 thing, and then you look at all these things that have shifted that I think move it towards that 53, you're starting to see why, yes, it's going to be decided in these states, but I think the piece that Tom is right about is that this is becoming a turnout to vote election. In other words, this shift, it really is, do the 53% turnout, does the campaign put the energy, et cetera, the shift cause that to happen? But fundamentally, when you really look at it, Kamala's even eating into Trump's leads where he's traditionally strong. Asked which candidate was better on immigration and border security, Trump had a 35-point edge over Biden. In July, that fell to 9 points over Harris, 26-point shift there. On inflation and cost of living, Trump advantage dropped from 22 points to 3 points. On crime and safety, from 21 to 2 points. Again, I think our unnamed pollster friend is probably correct because he's basing this on things he's seeing in focus groups. But there seems to be a lot of things were sticking to Biden because people already had made a decision about his age, competence, his ability moving forward in a way that looking at the future now, they just don't see that those hurdles for Kamala Harris, and they don't buy them. And so yes, I think Tom Etzel's right that it's going to be close. Although I don't look, given that 51, the 51 kind of 46.7 of 2020, if it widens above that, which I think it will, I don't think we'll get to Simon Rosenberg's 55, but damn it, we need to try, even though it won't stop them from trying to come back with JD or somebody in 2028. But I do think this is going to be if we do the work, and we need to, I think it'll be a bigger popular vote when, if there's a state I'm worried about, or not, it's not worried about, but I think we all need to focus on, it's Pennsylvania. Because in the end, when you look at the head-to-head polls in the 6 or 7 states, Arizona may be in play, may not be. We'll see. We'll see what kind of resources that we continue to put there. Wisconsin and Michigan, I think, are looking pretty strong right now in the grand scheme of battleground states that are going to be close. I still think those look strong. Pennsylvania is the tightest of those 3. And if we win all 3 of them, it gets very tough for Trump. So I think in the blue state, the blue wall states, I think we need to focus on Pennsylvania. And then the one thing that is true is that with Biden, those were the 3 must win. You had to have them, plus Nebraska won or something, or some other state. With these shifts that are happening, particularly with her move with Black voters and younger voters and Latino, the Southeast and West states are more in play. Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. And so there's many more paths to getting to 270 for Kamala than there were for Biden. And all those are places now where Trump's going to have to fight, and where it's getting worse for him.
Yeah, look at the Fox News polls. They have Kamala leading in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada now, places where they had Trump winning before. And I don't know if you noticed, but Trump has just been like on fire attacking Fox for these polls. And as we've discussed on this pod at length, Fox polls are usually pretty reliable on these things. They have a very good decision desk.
No, they have the best decision desk. I don't care. People can shoot arrows at me. I don't care. Fox News has the best decision desk that I've ever worked with. I've worked at CBS, MSNBC, CNN. They all have good decision desks, et cetera. But we got to remember who called Arizona. Who, if you go back and look at the real calls that people got the most upset about, but that were right, one way or the other, didn't matter which party you were in, it's been the Fox News decision desk. So they're polling. Look, there's a lot of things about Fox. Yeah, I'm with you. You can't watch it, whatever. But their numbers are pretty on the mark. And they now have Harris ahead in Arizona, in Georgia, in Nevada, down 1 to Donald Trump in North Carolina, which I believe is the big other place I would put a lot of focus in, because they are in the Republican part of the MAGA crowd is in deep trouble in North Carolina. It just can't even get worse for their gubernatorial nominee, who continues to be under fire for all kinds of crazy things. And now is evidently it's just Google the guy. Robbins.
Yeah, it's something. And Fox has him losing by 11 right now, which, I mean, clearly dragging Trump down too.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. The thing that's fascinating and should have been acute to people is in Arizona, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, these places where Biden was behind or in a dead heat, the Democratic Senate candidates were winning by 5 to 8 to 10 points. And that's still happening, except that Kamala Harris now is on par with them in many of these places. So that you're seeing, we were almost counting on reverse coattails from Senate candidates for Biden. I think it's becoming clear. And you have that in North Carolina in the gubernatorial race and in the superintendent of statewide education race, where the Republicans have horrible candidates. They're being beat by double digits. and Harris is within 1. And this is a state that Joe Biden only lost by 74,000 votes. So it'll be interesting to see where the Harris campaign concentrates. But I think, look, there's a reason they keep going back to Pittsburgh and they keep going into Pennsylvania, and that Joe Biden was there. It's a clear indication, I think, that's the battleground in the blue wall states. And then we'll see. But I think both North Carolina and Georgia become real possibilities as Nevada. And I still think Arizona's in play. And then you look at the money, and that's where things are really amazing to me. Harris, it keeps raising money, and Trump keeps having to pay his legal bills. And so this is the state of the current ad reservations in 4 states. In Arizona, the Democrats have placed reserved $36.7 million of advertising to the GOP's a little bit under 8 million. So 37 to 8. In Georgia, it's 42 million to the GOP's 33, a lot closer there, but it tells you that Georgia is obviously, with that volume, it's seen by both as the key battleground. In Nevada, it's Democrats 21 million to Trump and MAGA's 3.6 million. Again, almost 7 to 1. And then in North Carolina, Democrats are spending reserved 29 million to Trump and MAGA's 6.4 million. So there's another 5 to 1 shift there. And you're starting to see all these things. So you get back to the Tom Etzel piece. Yes, it's going to be close in these states. Yes, I think there's high floors and low ceilings on both sides. Our ceiling's 53. Our floor is probably around 46. His ceiling is 46. I don't think his floor is much lower than 44, 45, which would be Rosenberg's floor for him and us which would raise our ceiling. But when you look at that, and then just for a second, I want to go back to what you were talking about, Alex, the Senate races, where in Arizona, Gallego is at 56, Lake's at 41. This is a Fox poll, same Fox poll. Jackie Rosen in Nevada, 55. Sam Brown, the Republican, 41. North Carolina, the governor, Josh Stein, the Democrat, is at 54. Mark Robinson is at 43. So in all those states, big double-digit leads for the Dem. But let's just look for a second. So remember, I'm talking about a 53 kind of race here. Ruben Gallego, 56. Jackie Rosen, 55. Josh Stein, 54. Now let's look at the Republicans, 41, 41, 43 for Lake, Brown, and Robinson, respectively. So you got again, looking at that 53-46 structure, it's being reflected even in these Senate races, in these battleground states. Yeah, they're performing a little bit, but that tells you this is the decision I think America has made. A majority of Americans want to turn the page on MAGA and Trump. And it's around 53% that have made that decision. That's why if you actually start to look for the propensity of these numbers, Kari Lake, 41, Sam Brown, 41, Mark Robinson in North Carolina, 43. When you go back and look at the numbers that Alex was taking us through of the polling averages in different months, and Trump always being at 46 or 45, even if he was beating Biden or Harris was catching him and going by him, the numbers stayed the same. That's why I'm pretty convinced that we have, that the structure of the races we've been talking about, it is correct, that we're seeing all kinds of signs of it in these polls, that I think it means that the House, in these marginal House seats, battleground House seats, I think we're going to see the same kind of move. So I think the House is in our grasp. We have to do the work in those districts. And I even think the Senate, yes, we have to worry about Montana with Senator Jon Tester, but they also could be in for some surprises in Texas and Florida. And maybe there's a race in Nebraska where there's an independent candidate who seems to be giving the Republican incumbent there some problems. So it's a much tougher hurdle for us to hold the Senate, but I do think it's within the realm, particularly if this really does open up to be a 53-46. In other words, we start getting up in the upper area, because I think the country the MAGA thing is getting old. They're tired of it, and they don't want to go back to that for sure.
That's a really good point to end on, Joe, because we're just about out of time.
Thanks, Alex. And Alex was a little under the weather this morning, so thanks, Alex, for putting up and walking us through this. And thanks, everyone, for listening to That Trippy Show. Thanks, everyone, for asking about Says Us. You can go check out the beta at says.us and help us take back the town square. This podcast will always be free with support from our advertisers and is part of Resolute Square. Check out the latest at resolutesquare.com/trippy. Please subscribe to That Trippy Show and leave a review on Apple or wherever you listen. Also, if you're listening to this episode on YouTube, please subscribe to get alerts when we post the next episode. You can always send us a question to thattrippyshow@gmail.com or leave us a question and review on iTunes. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Keep up the work. They'll keep doing the crazy, and we'll win.
Resolute Square.